Hi, my name's Stuart Lynch, and this is the 8th video in the MapKit with SwiftUI and SwiftData series. In this video, we'll add search capabilities to our user location tripMap view, and we'll modify the marker location detail view to accommodate our needs. In addition, we'll also add an OpenInMaps button so that we can view the destination and open it in the Apple Maps application. Now remember that there is always a table of contents in the description for all of my videos that will allow you to jump directly to key points in the video should you wish to get to a specific location quickly.
I love getting your feedback, so tap the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video and leave a comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the video and ring that bell to get notifications of new videos. And if you want to support my work, you can buy me a coffee.
If you're working along with me, you can continue on from the source code that you completed in that last video. However, if you're just jumping in here and you want to work along now, you can download the completed project from that last video. Just make sure that you download from the branch for video 7. You can see that I've already now started a new branch here for the video 8, and the completed source code for this video will also be in that GitHub repository. Links to both are in the description. Well, what we want to accomplish in this video is to add search capabilities to our tripMap view and to display either a search result marker or one of my destination markers in a detail view, where I'll also have a button that will allow me to open in official Apple Maps application. Before I do that though, you can see that here I am on this tripMaps view screen and everything looks okay. But if I switch to the Start tab, the preview crashes. To solve this, we'll need to, in the Preview macro, inject an instance of the Location Manager into the environment. Okay, so let's go back now then to our tripMap view, and we'll implement our search the same way that we did in the Destinations tabs view there where we had a map. And we're going to use the search text and focus state and a query from that view. So let me go to that destination location maps view. And I'm going to find those 3 properties that we have here. And I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to return to the tripMap view and use them there. But let me start with a comment so that we can clearly identify the purpose of these properties. Notice that this query sets the search place marks to be all of those that do not have a destination set. Our list place marks array is all of them, but since this map will change with the user location, we'll only see those that are within the area of one of our destinations if we're in that area. Now I'll want to be able to select the place mark and display the detail, so I'll need a state property here as well for the selected place mark. And it will be an optional empty place mark that will be nil initially. And then we can add a selection argument to our map that's bound to this selected place mark. We can use some of the same content of our other maps for each loop then to display the search place marks as the default red markers and the ones that we've set for our destinations that might be near where we are now as yellow markers. So let me return to that other map view. Now we won't be setting any manual markers here in this view though. We will need this group with the tag. So I'll return to the tripMaps view and I'll replace that, what we have here, with that. So let's create the search text field now. And I'll do it the same way that we did in the other map, and I'm going to create a safe area inset. And I'm going to do that after the maps control. And again, I'll set the edge to bottom. Inside there, I'm going to add a VStack with some padding. Well, I can return to the other map view now, and I'm going to copy the entire text field with modifiers and the overlay from there. I'm just going to leave the on submit right now, and copy it, return, and I'll paste that into my VStack. And you'll see that I have that search field. For the onSubmit function, we're going to need a visible region to submit to the Map Manager function that we created for that search in a previous video. And we'll also need a model context. And we don't have either of those established as properties, so let's do that now. First, we can get the model context from the environment. And then I can create a state property. And for that, it'll be an optional MK coordinate region. And I'm going to call it visible region. Now, every time our map's view camera position changes, we want to set a new visible region. And we'll do that right at the start when we call the update camera position function. Unfortunately, MapKit gives us a function that watches for that. And we saw that in the other view too. It's the onMap camera change function. And it provides us with a context. And then when we have that, we can set the visible region to the context region. We're not going to be setting an on-end frequency here though. We will constantly update it if we are on the go. Now I can return to that other map view and copy that onSubmit function and use it here. However, we can't set the camera position here to be automatic because that would take into account all of the place marks that we have in all locations, not just around the visible region. So let's remove that. Now, if your preview is behaving properly like mine, you can test here by searching. But before you do that, you'll need to specify a model container for the preview. And we'll use our destination preview container. Now let's search for something like gas stations. And in my case, I see there are 4 close by. However, if I zoom out, I get to see a lot more. Now we still want to be able to clear those markers and display information about a selected one. So to clear the markers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a button. And so what I'll do is I'll embed this VStack inside an HStack. Then after the padding, I'm going to create another VStack because eventually I'm going to put a whole bunch of map controls in here instead of in my map controls modifier. But that will be in the next video. Inside the VStack then, we'll check to see if not place marks is empty. And then I can create a button where the label is an image using the system name mappin/. And then for the action, we can use our Map Manager service, remove search results function, and I can pass in that model context. And I'll set the button style to bordered prominent and the tint to red. Now I want to have all the buttons in this VStack be circular. I'm going to add some padding around the VStack, but I also want to make sure that every button inside this VStack is going to have a circular shape. So what I can do is I can apply a button border shape of circle. Let me test this here in the preview now and search. After I get some results, the button appears. I can tap that button and remove the search results. Now all I have to do is present the location detail view whenever the selected place mark has been set. So I will attach a sheet to the map view that's triggered by that change, or that item. So it's going to be bound to selected place mark, and this will provide us with the selected place mark. And I hate how I don't get the trailing closure syntax, so let me clean this up as we don't need that trailing label. And if you're wondering what I'm doing here, check out my video on that topic where I go through trailing closure syntax and understanding it. Well, now we can present the location detail view, but we don't need to provide a destination as it will just be nil. Just the selected place mark is required. But I do want to apply a presentation detent, and in that array, I'll specify one that is the height, and I'll make that height 450 like we did in our other view. So I can test this out now by doing a search, again for gas stations. Now tap on one and the location detail view pops up. And if one's available, we'll see the look around preview, but the text fields are empty because the destination is nil. So we'll have to do some refactoring on that location detail view if we want to use it here. Well, if you open the location detail view now, you'll see that the problem is in the onAppear block. Here we are requiring destination to not be nil, so we can populate the name and address properties in our text views. Well, the fact of the matter is we don't want to be able to modify those values if we're not at a destination, because we're never going to be adding them to any array here. So what we need to do is to display a text view instead of text fields. In the VStack, surround both the text fields and the if change clause with an if statement that will check to see if destination is not nil. Then you can add an else clause and create two text views instead. The first will be the selected place mark name, which is optional, so we'll nil coalesce to an empty string. I'll set the font to Title 2, and then I'll apply a font weight of semi-bold. For the second text field, the text will be the selected place mark's address, which is also optional. So again, we'll nil coalesce to an empty string here as well. This time I'll apply a font of footnote. I'm going to make the foreground style secondary, but the address could be quite long, so I'm going to set a line limit of 2, and then I'll apply a fixed size where horizontal is false, and vertical, though, is true, so that I'll see both lines in a wrap. And then I'll apply some trailing padding. You can return now to the tripMap view and do another search. And now you'll see that we get the view with the details displayed in text views and not text fields. Now, when this view appears, though, we want to do a couple of other things. We'll want to be able to open this location in the Maps app, and eventually I actually want to be able to show a route directly in our map. Well, this will only be the case if this view is presented when we are coming from the tripMaps view and not the destination location map view. And we'll know this depending on whether or not there is a destination property that is not nil. So in this case here, where we're coming from the tripMap view, in the H stack where we present our remove buttons, we won't be displaying them in this case. We'll create an else clause. And within the else clause, I'm going to create an H stack. For the first element in the H stack, I'll create a button using the string title OpenInMaps, and then I can use the new button type in iOS 17 where I can also specify a system image for the label. So I'll just use system image that's a map. For the action, I'm going to use an if-let to unwrap the selected place mark, and to OpenInMaps, we'll need to create a map item. But first, we'll need an MK place mark, which is different from our MT place mark. And this can be done just by specifying the coordinate, which is our selected place mark's coordinate. And then we can construct our map item, which is an MK map item, from that place mark. And the reason I wanted to do that is because map item can be assigned a name. So we'll assign it the selected place mark name, but more specifically, it has a function that is called the OpenInMaps function. And for this button, we want to make sure that we get the whole label without wrapping. So I'm going to apply another fixed size modifier here, where horizontal is true and vertical is false. Now the second button we're going to create similarly. It's going to be a label, and that label is going to be show route as the text, and the image or the system image I'm going to use is one that's location.north. And we'll code this action in a subsequent video, but let's make sure that it doesn't wrap and set a fixed size here with horizontal true and vertical false. And then finally, I'm going to apply a button style to the entire H stack of bordered. Well, you may have noticed that throughout all of this, our preview has not changed. And that's because in our preview macro, we have specified a destination by fetching one. Well, what we can do is we can give this preview a name like destination tab. And then we can duplicate it, but this time we're going to call it tripMap tab. And then what we can do is we can change the fetch descriptor to fetch all of the empty place mark instead of the destination. And then we can say that all place marks will be the result of trying to use the container's main context to fetch using that fetch descriptor. And we know that we have some in our mock data, so I can choose any one of these, like the first one at index 0, and assign it to a property that's called selected place mark. And then we can return the location view, but we don't need that destination because it'll be nil. And now if we tap on the tripMap views tab, we can see that our text fields have now been changed to text views, and I'm provided with 2 buttons. To view the OpenInMaps feature, we'll need to run in the simulator. And because I've set my locations to be around one of the destinations where I have place marks, we'll see those yellow markers there as well. So let me tap on one. How about tapping on the Eiffel Tower? I want to see how long it'll take me and what route it can take to get there. So when I tap, I get the detail view and I see those 2 buttons. I can't edit the name here. So let me tap on the OpenInMaps and the Maps app will open. Now you might be asked for permission if this is the first time that you've opened it, but once you do, you'll see the map with that selected marker. And then you can tap on the directions button in the maps. And let me see how long it will take me to walk. I'll tap on this walk button. That's a pretty long time. How about if I check out the driving time and directions? Well, this is pretty cool, but we've left our application now. I want to be able to provide a lot of this functionality directly accessible in my app, simply by tapping that root button that we haven't coded yet. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. If the series is not yet complete, or if you want to get notification whenever I create new videos, subscribe to my channel and enable notifications so that you're notified when new videos drop. All the videos for this series will be in the playlist.